Our view of the malachim, the messengers in the Bible, is a little bit different in that for the most part we don't view them as angels. Although that story you mentioned about Jacob and the ladder and the angels going up and down is a very problematic story, because why were the angels going up and down instead of down and up? Where did the angels start? Here. So the rabbis come up with this great response. Another long story. Many years before Jacob was born, his guardian angels were walking around trying to figure out what to do, and they found this beautiful woman, the most gorgeous woman in the entire universe. She had shimmering hair, a figure you could only dream about, face that was perfect, and she just oozed naivete. And she was pure. So walking home one night, a group of men see her, and they chase her, and they're catching her. Well, Jacob's guardian angels are sitting around watching all this with nothing to do because Jacob hadn't been born yet. And so they run up to this woman, and they protect her. But they were being overpowered by this group of men. And so these two angels took their wings off and put them on this pure, beautiful human being. And she flew up to the heavens, to the sky. And she, by the way, her name was Orion. And we now see her in the middle of Orion's belt. But, of course, Jacob's guardian angels had a little bit of a problem. They had to wait till Jacob was born so that they could go back to God and get new wings, because they don't grow back. And angels have in Jewish tradition, biblically, have one task and one task only that they're created for. They can't do anything else. So the 7 guardian angels each have one thing to do. One protects the gates of Sheol. One protects the gates of the Garden of Eden. One heals people, so on and so forth. And that's all they can do. They can't do anything else. And they're very jealous of us. Anyone have any idea why angels are jealous of you? You have free will. That's number one. And there's a second thing. No one, 2 legs? Yeah, we have 2 legs. They only have 1. Very good. Which is why in our service you see us going like this several times to imitate the angels, because when we do that, we're talking about a scene in which the angels are praising God. What are they envious of? Sex and sexuality. We can reproduce. They cannot. They have no gender. They have no sex. So they are just there. And the other thing, we have free will, of course. We can have sex. And we do something that they can only dream about. And that is we change. They cannot. We mature. We think more. We learn. We develop. They do not. They are in the same state as when created, and they're stuck that way. I want to spend a minute talking about demons. One demon in particular, her name's Lilith. Anyone know who Lilith is? Who's Lilith? Forget the Dark Angel series on television. That's not Lilith, and she doesn't. Lilith is, yes. Lilith, according to our mythology, was the first woman created by God, which is why we have 2 women created in Genesis. The first one didn't work out. Anyone know why? Okay, I'm sorry? She wouldn't be subservient to Adam. That is true. In what way? She insisted on being on top. I'm not kidding. This is it. This is what the rabbis wrote. She insisted on female superiority, and therefore she wasn't the appropriate mate. So we created another one. But what happens to poor Lilith? She's sent off, and she lives in a cave by the Red Sea. And she has minions. Where do her minions come from? Our babies. When you have a baby, and the baby suddenly disappears, Why? Because she took the baby. That's why if you go to a Jewish home with a new baby, you will usually find a bright blue or bright red ribbon on the crib with pieces of candy taped to it. Lilith loves bright colors, as do all demons, which is why you have blue and red doors on many homes in many different traditions, especially in the Middle East. And she has a sweet tooth. So she'll take the candy and the ribbon instead of the baby. But she's still very dangerous because she's got all these minions with her. And when she lost her place with Adam, she lost her ability to procreate. So the only way to get children is to steal them. We look at demons a little bit differently, not so much as temptors. Our view of the Satan in the Bible is the accuser or the prosecuting attorney. Satan doesn't like us because Satan thinks God made this world for Satan and not for human beings. And therefore, Satan is always trying to make God decide to destroy us all so that Satan can have the world. So far, we've been lucky. Sometimes not by much, but we've been lucky. Shall we take questions now, or do you want to respond again?
Questions.
Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
You have a beautiful synagogue, and behind, I don't know if you call it a pulpit, but behind the pulpit is a wonderful mosaic, which you can stare at for hours and see pictures inside of pictures. Are there any angels or references to angels in that mosaic?
I'm going through the window. Just give me a second. No, there are not. The closest is the... Oh, I'm sorry. We have a beautiful stained glass window in the front of our sanctuary, which is the entire width of our sanctuary. And he asked if there are any angels in the biblical stories that are mentioned there, and there really are not. The stories with the angels are not in the window.
I have a question for you in light of that, though. I was talking to someone today about, one, gender of angels, and it's interesting, of course, we tend to picture them as female. You know, the little statue that we have out by our columbarium, that's a beautiful angel, by the way. She's got a lot of hair, but it's a she. Michael, Gabriel, these are males who appear in the Bible. But the question we got onto today was, when did angels come to be depicted as having wings? And that raised the question of, what is the relationship between the angels and the seraphim and the cherubim? And that's a good rabbi question.
The cherubim are pictured, and seraphim are talked about briefly, especially those sitting over the ark with their wings touching and their faces looking at each other. And it's amazing. They're always pictured as these pretty fierce beings, although beautiful in their gilded attire. The cherubim and seraphim are forms of destroyer. The cherubim with the sword, the cherub, and the seraphim with fire. So they're not angels you want to be near.
But they are angels.
They are. If you create a pantheon of angels within Jewish life, as some have, yes, they're considered angels. And they date the cherubim, the cherubim, and the seraphim date back quite far because they are in the book of Exodus and Numbers with the construction of the temple, of the tabernacle in the wilderness. So that's
one other thing before another question that I meant to mention in my notes. This is always a delicate thing to think about. I think how to say this. Often, when someone dies, and especially if it's a younger person that dies, within Christianity, what people often say is, "Oh, she has become an angel. She is now an angel in heaven." But technically, in Christian theology, the angels are not former human beings who have died. The angels are a separate realm of creatures who never were people, never will be people. We don't fault people for having this sort of thought, of course, but technically that's one of those oddities. What questions?
And could you say the same thing about demons? It's not a stage or a milestone in a life process or afterlife process.
Yeah, correct. Within classic, now I've got a Yes, yes. Demons would not be former. I'm tempted to do some like Chapel Hill joke. We haven't read this, but yes, demons would not be former people or prospective people. They're more just malevolent, personal forces that, on the one hand, in our view, are tempters, but also they're the inflictors of harm and turmoil in human life. I mean, I would add that the demonic, as we think about it within Christianity, is not merely personal. It's not just that, oh, you have something that tempts you and leads you astray. We have a sense of the demonic that it can become corporate. There can be corporate life that can take on dimensions of the demonic. National life can take on dimensions of the demonic. I mean, we're talking about this Kristallnacht, a good example. A whole nation state was pervaded by this specter of evil. So it's not just this individualization thing. Okay. Yes.
Have you heard about the angel that visited Presbyterian Hospital and made the national news?
I read something about, yes. She asked about an angel that visited Presbyterian Hospital.
I found out that this happened either 2 or 3 Christmases ago. A little girl that was around 14 was going to be taken off life support. The nurse went back to the nurse's station, and up in her screen that monitors the goings and comings, she could see a man. She opened the door to let the man into the intensive care. And no one came in. She thought he went away. And saw him again, opened the door. There he wasn't, but on the monitor, there he was. And they started bringing all these doctors and nurses around. They saw the angel in the monitor, but not outside the door. They tried to take pictures. They replayed the tapes, and he didn't show up. And the mother of the little girl that was going to be taken off life support took a picture with her cell phone. And so this made the local news and then the national news.
What happened to the little girl?
She did not die. Her birthday was Christmas Day. She lived, and they said he came for several days after that around a year.
Right. So, some of you may not be able to hear all that. It was, I don't know how someone would know that it was an angel, but an angel at the hospital, and this girl did fine, and they couldn't take photos and all this. Let me say 2 things about that. On the one hand, I don't have any judgment on that. If anything good ever happens, we celebrate that. So, of course. The two difficulties in my mind would be something that I think we'll take up next week when we talk about the miraculous. One of the problems when we talk about a miracle is that God did something, but that's a problem because it means God wasn't doing anything, and then suddenly God did something. But we believe God. The reason I'm breathing right now is because of God. The reason the sun came up this morning is because God's acting all the time. So to say, oh, God suddenly did something is problematical. And the only other thing that worries me when I'm always I'm rambling. I think about times that somebody has a story that's very real and powerful and meaningful to them of the way God delivered them, okay? I knew a guy who got out of the World Trade Center. Okay, God got him out of the World Trade Center. I know people who've recovered from terrible diseases and that God saved them. And again, we celebrate all good anytime that it happens. The problem always is that gets said within earshot of somebody that they didn't get the angel, their child died, and it almost can begin to feel harsh by, so it can almost be painful. I had a friend who did not get out of the World Trade Center. So did God leave him in? It just introduces a whole host of problems just in terms of our love and sensitivity to each other. It's not that we don't tell senses that we have of God being involved in the world, but we've got to be really cognizant that there are people around who they have desperately every day been pleading with God to do something for them, and there's not been an angel, there's not been, you know what I'm saying? And so we just need to be attentive to that, I think.